My name is H.A. Goodman, and I'm an author, columnist, and journalist. Hit subscribe right now. We're on our way to 140,000 subscribers. My Patreon link is below if you want to support my voice long-term. Definitely check out my latest op-ed in the Jerusalem Post. You have to check it out. Please, please, please share it on all your social media platforms. It's Why Democrats Embrace Anti-Semitism and Anti-Israel Bias. It's a great read, and it pretty much describes the Democratic Party in that regard, pertaining to those issues. Please go ahead and share that everywhere. My Second Amendment channel is below as well. Subscribe to HA Second Amendment also. This is very interesting. President Trump is bringing home Americans from war. Republicans and Democrats join forces to oppose Trump. President Trump is bringing home Americans from never-ending quagmires, from conflicts, two theaters of conflict, 25 Democrats, which is why I can't stand Democrats, because the left is supposed to be, well, anti-war. Supposed to say, hey, bring our American soldiers home to their families, to their children, to their loved ones, to their wives, to their husbands, to their parents. The biggest moral tragedy of this era is never-ending, perpetual quagmires that send Americans abroad indefinitely. That's far more important than any other issue that the left obsesses over, whether it's Russian hacking, even climate change. Because Beto O'Rourke, for example, has taken more oil and gas lobbyist money than anyone aside from Ted Cruz in Congress. He's number 2 on the list. David Sirota, who isn't a Trump supporter, exposed that. So that should tell you. That should tell you what Democrats really feel, how they really feel about climate change. President Obama presided over the largest expansion of domestic oil and gas production. So when they say, well, we believe in the science, it's all propaganda. I mean, climate change is real, fine. But the rhetoric, the propaganda, the spin, the fear-mongering, there's no greater moral dilemma we face than perpetual and never-ending military conflict where we send Americans abroad, away from their families, their children, their loved ones, and we feel as a nation that I don't, and Trump does not because he wants to bring Americans home, close to 10,000 from two theaters of conflict, that Democrats, 25 in the Senate, 25 senators, Democratic senators, and Republicans, unfortunately, oppose. I'm getting off on a tangent. Look, bottom line is this. They're opposing his troop withdrawals, but they're also opposing his call for a national emergency. He'll have to call for a national emergency, so there's no real question. He has to call for a national emergency. It's the only way he's going to get funding for the wall. It's the only way he's going to get funding. Democrats are not going to give an inch. They're not even, this is another aspect of the duplicitous Democratic Party, they're not even going to negotiate a deal for Dreamers, for their constituents. They're not going to negotiate a pathway to citizenship. They're not going to negotiate anything. They don't care. They just want to hurt Trump. Whatever they need to do to obtain power, whether it's cheat Bernie Sanders and then make Bernie Sanders into one of their little toys or tools, where even he's kind of opposing, because to his credit, he voted against the Senate resolution. But he said, well, it has to be an orderly withdrawal. What does that even mean? But they'll cheat. They'll get the same people they cheated to then vote for them again. They'll push to keep Americans in conflict, and they'll do anything possible to hurt Trump. Even if it means, well, they voted for a fence, he can't have his wall. A wall is immoral. Fence is okay. Fence is nice. You can jump over a fence. Wall is bad. You can't jump over a wall. That's, I guess, the way Democrats think of it. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no comprehensive immigration reform for Democrats. There's no legislation, Medicare for all legislation. There's no nothing. It's just, whatever hurts Trump and whatever you can do to feel morally superior. And then, there's Ralph Northam, and then there's Justin Fairfax, and then there's, Democrats in Virginia are plummeting into the abyss. Well, they already had Terry McAuliffe, who was almost at Hillary Clinton level corruption. Almost. The guy funneled money to Andrew McCabe's wife, the number 2 at the FBI, $800,000, something like that. And then McCabe recused himself, 2 weeks before the election, something like that. Now he's under grand jury investigation for lying under oath 3 times. You have this thing right now. You know me, I'm all over the place. But if Trump declares national emergency, Pelosi can jam Republicans. Here's how. How, Washington Post? This is why nobody trusts the White House. It's only to hurt Trump. Republicans have good reason to be deeply nervous. And by the way, there are many Republicans against Trump regarding the wall, which will hurt them in the long run. And when push comes to shove, they'll realize this. They're only playing. This is like a facade, a charade, a farce, because they're catering to the media. You have people who are like Jeff Flake, maybe not as much of a turncoat as Jeff Flake, but there are people who just want to, Republicans who just want to kind of play both sides of the fence. They'll utilize Trump if they need to, and when push comes to shove, they'll have to side with Trump, even though they'll kind of pretend that they don't want to. But Republicans have good reason to be nervous. Here's why. According to one of the country's leading experts on national emergencies, it appears that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi can trigger a process that could require the GOP-controlled Senate to hold a vote on such a declaration by Trump, which would put Senate Republicans in a horrible political position. That not only exonerates Trump, that would expose the Republican Party. And that would inoculate Trump from the ire of Ann Coulter or anyone else. He's doing what he has to do for his voters. When you look at YouTube policies, I can't even say certain words. It's beyond bizarre. If you say certain words, it's demonetized, and this is what I do. I'm a writer. Like I said, my Jerusalem Post op-ed. Check that out below. Why Democrats embrace anti-Semitism and anti-Israel bias. But I couldn't even describe. It would be against YouTube policies to describe the atrocities and the heinous acts and the crime, to give a description that would warrant a national emergency, because it's already, John Kelly in 2014, when President Obama was president, stated it is a an existential threat. What's taking place in that region between Mexico and the U.S. is an existential threat to the country. That was a Defense One article. Look it up. Look it up. Everything I say is backed by public record knowledge. I'm reading from the Washington Post. So let them hold a Senate vote. Let the Republicans oppose Trump and go on record for 2020 when there's Republican senators up for re-election and Republicans in the House up for re-election. Let them go on record. Let Ann Coulter and all the other conservative pundits eviscerate them. Do away with them. Let them, their political futures are at stake. So let them have a Senate vote. They've already voted. It was 63 to so they rallied with Democrats to keep Americans in quagmires forever. I mean, like, how long do you want, like, to the average leftist or progressive or liberal who, like, oh my God, you said something racist, like, who just focuses on words and semantics? Just, we know that you're so morally superior. Not. How long do you want Americans fighting in counterinsurgency conflicts and quagmires and never-ending conflict, perpetual conflict? How long do you? I mean, do you have a time limit? Because it's almost 20 years now. It's the biggest issue of our age. That's why I voted. That's why I wrote about Rand Paul. And then when Bernie came to the scene, I was still on the left, but I was like, hey, this is a guy who's going to change the system. This is a guy who's going to act like Trump is acting now. He's going to bring home Americans. He's going to preside over peace between North and South Korea. He's going to create 400,000 manufacturing jobs. Actually, wait, more than 400,000. More than 400,000 manufacturing jobs. While Obama lost 300,000. My last segment, which apparently nobody saw, you could check it out. My last segment, Trump executive time, created 5.1 million jobs compared to 8.9 million in 8 years. So 5.1 million in 2 years under Trump. Pretty good. Pretty good. 467,000 manufacturing jobs under Trump. Are you kidding me? And then they say, like, oh, he's not doing anything. Well, you know what? If he's not doing anything and all of this is happening, that he's amazing. He's amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, he's presiding over an economy where in 2 years, you're approaching 8 years of job creation under Obama. He's presiding over a foreign policy where he's bringing home Americans. This vindicates me. That's where when I wear the MAGA hat, I wear it with pride. Because he's bringing home Americans from conflict. That is what I wanted from Bernie. And when I was on the left, I was like, I have to be morally superior, even if it's not feasible. That's like what drives people on the left is not reality. It's try to be morally superior at every turn. That's why they eat each other up. And that's why they beg for forgiveness when they break their own rules. But when others break the rules, the arbitrary rules that they create on life, that really nobody cares about. Like the average American, the average person on the planet doesn't really live their lives based on these like bizarre, nonsensical theories, these euphemisms that are all-encompassing. Because we see, like, if there's a definition of a supremacist, it's Hillary Clinton. So, like, anything they level at Trump is nothing compared to what Bill and Hillary did. And Hillary said, I can go on forever about that. There's nothing that Trump has said that could even come close to Hillary Clinton referring to black youth as super predators. Oh, and what did she say? Who must be brought to heel. How can you say that about anyone, much less young people? Trump never said anything close to that. Did he do things that weren't right? Sure. But the crime bill destroying an African nation, Obama and Clinton, there are slave auctions now in Libya. So, I mean, it's night and day. But they're opposing. You have this media spin. Oh, Trump has an uphill battle with the national if he declares a national emergency. He doesn't actually. If he declares a national emergency, and they oppose a national emergency, then there goes the Republican Party. So it's not really like, and that exonerates Trump. So, ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe right now. You definitely want to get this. You want to watch this channel throughout 2019. We have State of the Union today, but we have on Thursday a new DOJ and Attorney General. You have Lindsey Graham and the Senate Judiciary Committee starting a Clinton email probe. You have William Barr, who's going to start a whole bunch of probes. Hopefully a special counsel. You need a special counsel. That's what he really needs to do. It's game over if he starts one. But even any probe is going to lead to either the creation of a special counsel or eventually Clinton indictments. So, I mean, the ball is rolling. They spent 2 years. They had 2 years where they could basically prevent any real repercussions. But the layers of corruption have been peeled. You realize, people who really pay attention realize what's going on. And so you have, I mean, getting back to the national emergency for the wall funding, you have all of this. And you have all of this where Trump is facing Republican opposition. Republicans defy Trump on national emergency. How do you know? Oh, well, some Republicans have said they're not going to go with it. They're stupid. They're digging their own political graves. Let them. Many Senate Republicans are deeply opposed to President Donald Trump declaring a national emergency to build his border wall. With enough resistance, that the only reason they have 2 Supreme Court justices is because of Trump. You think people would vote for an establishment Republican? An establishment Republican loses 10 out of 10 times to an establishment Democrat. The Democrats outraise Republicans. The Democrats have the media in their pocket as an extension of the Democratic National Committee. The Democrats even have people they cheat, like Bernie Sanders and Bernie voters, the majority of whom will vote Democrat. The left is a giant cult based on a quest to be morally superior. They can do anything. They could create a new Cold War and say that the Russians wanted us to know that Bernie Sanders was cheated, that the Russians wanted us to know the extent of their corruption, and that would make sense to them. They don't care. They don't have any independent thought. The left, like very few people on the left, have independent thought. That's why they've jettisoned and they haven't defended WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. Because they're not allowed to. All your favorite pundits who are like, fight the oligarchy, man. Not all of them, but some of your favorite pundits. Certain ones who don't defend WikiLeaks or Julian Assange, that's the issue. They're part of that cult that says, you know what, let's funnel all the outrage on the left back into the 2020 nominee, who is going to be someone handpicked by the establishment on the left, who wants Americans to fight never-ending conflicts abroad, and who will never implement or run on Medicare for all. Okay, that's like a lie that's meant just to galvanize votes. They're not. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the foundation of like everything she's talking about, she's pushing these grandiose ideas, legislation. She's pushing legislation that she hasn't even written and that she won't write. Apparently, she's in Congress just for media appearances. She's not sponsoring or co-sponsoring any major legislation pertaining to the value system that she claims to have. So, people are dying. People are losing their lives. Great. So you've been there for over a month now. You want to co-sponsor legislation? I don't know. Maybe. Possibly. 12 years from now, there's going to be no more Earth. Okay. You don't think that's a little bit incentive to write a Green New Deal? So it's like, if you're there just to further the message, you already have the progressive pundits and liberal pundits. People already have been talking for 2 years about Medicare for all. Only one aspect of Bernie's platform in 2016, but one that was, deemed acceptable by the Democratic establishment, because they can lie about it and then just jettison it, and people will still vote. Democrat in 2020 and lose. Trump's going to win. Either way, Trump wins with this. He declares a national emergency and Republicans block the national emergency. Then the Republican Party is dismantled. Then voters are like, well, why do we even vote for you? That's the conservative side. I'm looking at it from a national security perspective. I'm looking at it strictly from the trafficking of all different types of illegal narcotics, whatever, human, all these things. Hit subscribe right now. Definitely check out my op-ed. It is below. Please, please, please share that on every single platform. And it explains exactly why the Democratic Party embraces anti-Semitism. Check that out. And my Second Amendment channel. That is below in the pinned comment. Ladies and gentlemen, you want to watch this channel the rest of 2019. Tell your friends about this channel. Share this channel on social media. Just let's get to 140,000 subs and then 200,000 subs. As my voice grows, your voice will grow as well. Thank you so very, very much for watching.